everybody, and welcome to day, how many fingers I got, Ken? 9 of the 10-day flat rate challenge. I cannot believe it. How did we get through 8 days already, and let alone be on number 9?
I have no idea.
Well, I'm super excited, and for those that are watching us on the live stream, just a reminder that you can leave your comments. I know that Ken's already put one in the comment section there, so if you're watching on Facebook, if you're watching on LinkedIn, or if you're watching on YouTube, you can leave comments. And if you're watching on LinkedIn afterwards of the recording, you can leave a comment there too. So this is a lot more fun when you do get engaged and involved. And I know, Ken, I think you already threw one out there. Yeah, so let us know where you're watching from. And pretty excited about today. I will introduce the sponsor in a few minutes, but before I get to that, I want to share a little something. Did you see that latest article that came out of the Canada report? Well, there it is, and certainly recommend it.
I wonder who they interviewed.
I wonder, could it have been somebody talking about flat rate billing and the future of managed print? It's a really interesting article on a few levels. One, that it does talk through a lot of what we've been talking about through the flat rate challenge. But secondly, there's actually some voices in there that were in the past kind of skeptical, have come around to this whole idea of flat rate in the year 2021. Which is really great. So there's some interviews with folks from Lexmark in there, as well as from Supplies Network. And president of the MPSA in years past, one of my favorite people, Kevin DeYoung, also has some comments in there. So if you haven't seen it, the Canada Report is an incredible resource. Thanks, Scott Cullen, for getting us involved to be able to comment in there. And it couldn't be any more timely to actually have been released, during the flat rate challenge, right?
It's amazing. And I have seen so much in the press. We talked briefly about some articles in ENX magazine. Patricia Ames publications have talked about it. We're going to hear about it on some of the BTA publications. It's just so many people are talking about it because the pandemic has driven home the point that we've got to do things differently. The declining volumes has been kind of starting to push push dealers, and then the pandemic has just kind of really added some momentum to the process.
It has, and I certainly don't think it's created anything new, but it's pushed the needle, so to speak, right? Now, one of the things I want to talk about here too, we're 2 days away, and when we're finished the 10-day challenge, of course, the flat rate conversation never ends. Ken and I are going to be doing a weekly live stream every Wednesday at 11 a.m. And we will have newer guests. We'll have different points that we'll be talking about, current events with flat rate, both in the managed print space and other areas. And this will be streamed live, as always, both on flatrate.world, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and Facebook. So book your calendars. It'll be every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern, just like clockwork. And certainly looking forward to continuing that conversation. And it looks like we've got a couple comments here. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, you didn't tell them the real reason is we just have fun talking to each other, and we hope people listen to us once in a while.
Yeah, we can't shut up. And it's like, what are we going to do after this, man? Like, think about it. We've been doing this for 9 days straight after today, 10 days straight after tomorrow, and it never gets dull. I mean, there's just so much happening. The conversations that we're having with dealers and, partners has been phenomenal, right? And hey, look, my friend Amy Bodner from Papillion, Nebraska. So Amy is with Tigerpaw, and that's probably a good segue. As we've mentioned for this global event that we're doing, which I'll just show off our little map here for 1 second because I do it. For this global event that we're doing, you look at all the different countries that we're in, from Canada, the US, South Africa, Australia, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, France, Spain, Norway, all over the world. And Ken, I'm a little disappointed that no one's taken us up on Antarctica yet, but who knows? One day we might be doing flat rate in Antarctica. Maybe that'll come during our weekly streams. But, we could not hold this global event. We could not have all these countries involved, all these dealers involved for free if it wasn't for our sponsors. And what I'm going to do now is bring up one of those sponsors today, someone that I love dearly. I've worked with him as a partner and as a friend in the industry for a lot of years now. Both when we were actually at separate companies, and then more recently when I started doing some things with him at Tigerpaw. and that is Mr. James Foxall. So, James, how are you, buddy?
West, Ken, I'm great. How you doing today?
Good. I get to do my favorite part. You remember in the green room, I get to kick Ken out. I'm going to kick him out now. So
Boot him.
there we go.
See you again.
We'll see when we bring him back in. Hey, and like I said, I can't thank you enough, James. You guys stepped up to the plate right away when I was looking for sponsors for this initiative. It has been absolutely incredible, and it would not be available for free to the dealer channel if it wasn't for your sponsorship. So first of all, thank you so much for helping us out.
Well, we're really grateful for the opportunity to participate. Obviously, I'm a fan of yours and what you're doing and the message that you're carrying. Our mission is to help this space, and I believe what you're preaching is the right thing to do. I keep telling people, can you imagine with the challenges that the dealers have gone through COVID, if you had been doing per seat billing in COVID? With our software, the way our recurring revenue works is as long as people were using it, we got paid, right? With per seat billing, you would have gotten paid for all of that, regardless of the consumption. So, I mean, this is really, I think, illustrated why. So I'm a big believer in what you're preaching here, and I'm glad that we can participate as a company.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, you're not in such an entirely different world, right? There was a time when you shifted your business from a traditional, software sale model as well, right? And moved into that subscription model. And one of our guests on the first day from France, their dealership was under a flat rate program for managed print, and they did a phenomenal job. And someone else who I'm going to sneak in a little later actually has a managed technology practice. We're going to talk more about sort of that convergence of services tomorrow. Mm-hmm. But his business has grown, and a lot of it has been that technology subscription-based, part of the business, right? So, phenomenal.
Well, that's another side of the coin, right? When we preach convergence, right? And with flat rate billing, for example, for us, that was easy. We've been doing that for years for the managed services guys. And I will tell you, the managed services space has gone crazy with COVID. As everybody moved to work from home, the security opportunities, the IT, the tech, the unified communications. And so, we've been in this space forever preaching that there's a path to make a move to that, right? And add that to your existing lineup and get more money from your existing clients. So I'm glad you brought that up. And again, if COVID hasn't illustrated it, I don't know what would.
Yeah, it has absolutely been the great equalizer, if you will, in the managed print world, right? Now, hey, listen, there's going to be some folks on the call who haven't met you and maybe don't know what Tigerpaw is all about. So why don't you take a couple of minutes and tell us about what you and the organization do?
You bet. Thank you, Wes. So Tigerpaw has been around for 36 years. I'm actually second generation. I started running the company about a decade ago. My father started in '84, and we were a software consulting company in the early Wild West days. Lots of different applications. We ended up in the mid 90s really focusing on telecoms, guys that sold phone systems and supported phone systems, and that branched out into VARs and commercial AV and security and alarm. And so we're in a number of technology verticals. Kind of the commonality is people that sell technology and service it after the sale, typically in some sort of recurring revenue service model. The office equipment space is something we started coming towards about 4 years ago. Being very honest, there's one entrenched player that everybody has to use. They're paying way too much for the older solution they're using. They can't call anybody. They're treated poorly when they have questions. They're being nickeled and dimed for everything. And we said, you know what? That's crazy that a whole industry has to be held hostage like that. We have a better way. And so we've been spending all our time on the tools and the services necessary to provide that better way. And in fact, we put together a dealer advisory group of about 24 dealers, some very large dealers on this group, helping us not just create feature parity with the entrenched application, but build a whole new suite of automation on top of it that these dealers have been hungry for years, but have not seen that innovation come from the existing vendor. And so that's what we're working for our October release, which is on schedule. So you're going to see a release come out in October that not only creates parity with the existing platform, but finally provides the dealers these automation points they've been hungry for. They just can't get their existing provider to give them. Our goal, is simple. We want to provide better software, better service at a cheaper price. That's what we want to do. We want to be partners to help the industry move forward.
Yeah, and it's been very exciting to watch you develop that over at Tigerpaw. And October is going to come, faster than most of us think, right?
Yeah.
And I am so excited for the stuff that you guys are doing. And, part of it is that, me on the convergence side, I'm a pretty simple guy. I've always thought if you can do something with one system instead of two, why wouldn't you use one, right? So
absolutely,
what you're building, for that, not just for the office equipment channel, but for people that are going to be doing both are going to be converging those services is super important, right? So
if you're thinking about conversions, there's nothing better you can consider than starting with a platform that will run your existing business better and cheaper than you are today, and provide that tool set built in to allow you to make that transition. That's our philosophy.
Well, that's great, and certainly appreciate everything you're doing and for the sponsorship. So for everyone that's watching, it's very simple. If you want to learn more about them today, which I encourage you to do, just visit tigerpaw.com. It's a wonderful URL, very simple to remember, and an amazing product and some fantastic people. I love the folks that I work with at Tigerpaw. You guys are doing great work, and thank you once again.
Wes, the last thing I'll leave you with is that we are still open to the appropriate people coming on board with our advisory group. So if you have a vested interest and in seeing a new player with a new product come along to help move the industry forward and better the space, we'd love to talk to you about being a participant on our advisory group too.
Yeah, it's been a really great group, and I've watched that grow, and it really is incredible that it is not a sales pitch. It really is the help of what do you need out there? Yeah, what do you need for managed print? What could be better? What isn't there today? Those, kind of things, right? So really cool stuff that you're doing there as well. And if anyone wants to reach out to me, I can make sure we get you in touch with the right people as well.
And I'm glad you said that, Wes. There's no sales pitch here. You can participate in this group and with absolutely no commitment to purchase from us. What we're just looking for is fellow like-minded people that want to help move the industry forward. Like you.
Yes, that's great. Well, really appreciate it, James.
Thanks, Wes.
Cheers, buddy.
Cheers, my friend.
Yeah, just an incredible guy and such an incredible group.
They are.
I let you back.
We got to work this out where I have the power to throw you in the green room every once in a while. You get too much pleasure out of throwing me in the green room.
When we start doing the weekly streams.
The power, the Tigerpaw as a partner are doing such some amazing things. It's one of the things that it's interesting is I've had conversations with them as well, trying to help them understand what dealers need to be able to get in the way of information out of their ERP system, because the challenge right now is some of the other reports that are generated by some of the other vendors are pure useless data. Because a good example, one of the companies produces a report that is an average of averages, and that is absolutely useless for any purpose.
An average of averages. I love that. Yeah. But, the other cool thing, as we've talked about many times in this program, people saying, well, what if I just want to do flat rate for managed print? And you know what our answer has always been? Good luck to you, right? So this really is about changing the way that we help our customers. That this managed print part is only one piece of that. And as you start to look at converged services, you are going to have to look at doing things differently for that as well. I love the idea of starting with managed print. It's our wheelhouse. Get used to doing flat rate there. Get used to servicing your customers in new ways and helping them in new ways, and then start to add those additional services. And looks like we got one other person here. Hey, Ingrid. There's another person we love all the way from Massillon, Ohio. Hopefully I said that right and didn't apply any Canadian accent. So thanks for tuning in there, Ingrid. All right. So speaking of one ring to rule them all, one system to rule them all, and being able to do these converged services. I'm not going to take too much thunder away from that for tomorrow, because we're going to talk a lot about it. But we do have a special guest today, Mr. Jeff Bendix from Bendix Imaging. And I'm going to invite him to come into the call right now. And Ken, I'm going to kick you up, Ken. So just
I know you just have so much fun with that.
What's going on, my friend? How are you, Jeff?
You're bouncing Ken around like a rubber ball here today.
You can't give me too much power or control, right? You can see what clearly happens here. Hey, I want to thank you so much. I know you're busy working on some pretty big proposals today. To give us a few minutes of your time to join on the live stream today. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, happy to help. Good content you're putting out there. So thanks to you and Ken for leading the charge.
Well, it's absolutely our pleasure, right? And one of the reasons I wanted you on today briefly is because we are talking today about sort of more of the back office stuff, right? And you and I have worked together for a lot of years, and I know that some folks out there are using two systems for, one for running the IT services side of their business and another for their managed print business, but you're using one system for everything. So just want you to talk a little bit about that and how that affects how you sort of manage all your practices.
Yeah, correct. We were previously in that situation before and had one system that did a pretty good job at the print, but pretty poor on the IT and all the other systems, the big players out there. As we were on that search and speaking with them, they can maybe do IT really good as far as ticketing and billing and contracts and all that, but they couldn't really do print. And that led me to Tigerpaw. We looked at, I think, literally every platform out there that we could find, and talked with James, and we became an early beta dealer. And they've been great to work with. Everything we ask for, they listen and they try to put everything in place that we can to help us manage both sides of the house there efficiently. I know our back office billing. We used to. Or we still do. We do our just to manage cash flow. We do our all our managed print billing on the 1st of the month and all our managed IT on the 15th of the month. So that not only helps out just with administratively, but it also manages your cash flow and spreads it out. Makes a month much more comfortable month. But our billings used to take 2 or 3 days, just for one person solely dedicated to that. Plus, then often other people getting involved just to some degree. And now, for the most part, unless you have some crazy meter anomaly that comes up, which that they always do, but our billing's down to a few hours at best. For our IT services, it's actually less than 2 hours.
Wow.
A month.
Yeah, it's amazing. I do not want to steal your thunder for tomorrow, because tomorrow we're going to talk about the other thing that's really cool about you, right? And the one thing I've known from you for all the years, I can't even think of all the years we've known each other in this space now. But you've always been an innovator. You've always been willing to at least try new things in the business. And it's been really incredible watching how that's paid off for you, especially in the last few years, as some of the stuff we'll talk about tomorrow has come to fruition for you, right? So just incredible. Can't thank you enough for coming in today. And obviously, great to hear your thoughts on using one system versus, two for managing both sides of the business. So, Jeff, thank you very much for everything you do.
Absolutely.
All right. So you got some time back now. Go get that proposal done.
Well, I'll work at it my best.
All right. Cheers, brother. Yeah, there's another industry great. I've been so lucky and blessed to work with some incredible people in the Office Equipment channel, and Jeff is one of the top. A lot of people don't realize that in this space. When I don't know if you're like me, Ken, but when you're at parties and people ask what you do for a living, and you talk about managed print being in the Office Equipment channel, how people's eyes start to glaze over and start to move on to your hobbies in a hurry, right? We are in a gem of a space. Incredible money, incredible business, and incredible people, right? We're just absolutely, so blessed.
I agree. We've had some great sponsors, some great guests on so far, and for those that, just so you know, all of the guests we've had on have strictly volunteered their time. They've just been willing to share what they've learned, even when it was with people that could have been listening from their market, they still shared, what they've learned, what they've done. We'll get some more of that tomorrow. So I think that is incredibly generous of them and very big-hearted.
Yeah, and we're big believers in that too, that, you've got to share. People say, why are you giving this, away to dealers? And the honest truth is you've got to give before you get, right? You've got to make sure that you're helping the community that you belong to. And in our case, the Office Equipment channel, to thrive. And this has been, a difficult year and a half for everybody from a business perspective. Yes, we're bouncing back. Yes, we're coming around, but these kind of things always come back. So, that volunteerism and that, that giving back to the community has been absolutely incredible. And hey, look, there's our buddy Jer from South Carolina. Thanks for coming back. He's been a regular with us for all of the live streams. And Jer, I did put on another funny shirt for you today. I don't know if you noticed that, but there we go. This is one of my personal favorite cruise shirts just for you. All right. So let's move into it. It's time to talk about our 5 things today, Ken. And, on this note that both obviously were shared by both our guest and our sponsor, is that we have to have considerations for the back office long before we actually launch the program. And I think one of the mistakes that people make is that they kind of involve certain departments, later than sooner, right? And, that's obviously not my preferred approach. I always say to involve them early, and anyone that I consult with on this particular topic, they're generally involved in the advisory, group that's launching with the program, right? And it seems like a strange place, and I do get pushback sometimes, but it's absolutely critical because they're the ones that have to run the machine, once we set it loose on the world, right? And as well as I do, Ken, that any admin people that I've ever worked with, for good or for bad, have either been champions or my worst enemy, either in a sales cycle or trying to get a program off the ground, right? And it's a lot easier to make them a champion for that program when they're involved with it from the beginning.
Yeah, and I want to speak to that for just a second, because just in general, I find that too many times the dealership's management team, they come to the party way too late. They don't get involved in the decision making and in any of the process of trying to big, small, different things, but that's okay. The service management, the sales manager, the admin manager, all of these people need to be involved in building out this plan early on, as soon as you're thinking about it. In fact, I would say that even in the thinking about it stage, that you want to get all of the departments involved so that they can start to analyze the impact on their department and the steps forward. And like I said, I think that in general, dealers don't do a good job of building out business plans. I've talked to probably 50 service managers or more now in my class, and I have yet to find one that had a service department business plan for the next 5 years. Yet it takes 3 to 5 years to train a technician. So they hire a technician today, they're hiring it for 3 to 5 years from now. So that same pattern exists throughout the company. I would say get your management team involved in this process early.
Yeah. So, 3 to 5 years really to get somebody up to speed on that side, right? And honestly, as we've said with this program as well, that it is going to take some time to get good at it, to make sure that it is having a significant impact on the business, right? So get them involved early. And I'm telling you, every time there have been some eureka moments from those people as well, because they are the feet on the street. Yeah. And as Jeff mentioned with his comments, that they've dramatically cut down how long it takes them to invoice their customers, both in the managed print and the technology side. And I can tell you this, it's not Jeff that's like doing the billing, right? It's one of his fine people. So it's really important to make sure that expertise is brought to the table right away, right? Hey, look, we got John Alford is back. Says, hey guys, I'm back following the live stream, listening from my home office in Norway. Well, good to see you, John. And yeah, we missed you, but fortunately, Ken, that's what I love, that for people, you don't have to be in here every day. We've had a lot of people that have, because I'm the same way. I love to schedule my learning. If I've got it blocked out for a time during the day, then I can commit to it. But for everyone else that's involved in this live stream, if you're watching it today and you're not registered, you can register. And there's a few good reasons to do that. One is you'll have access to the ones you missed. So we at flatrate.world will have a repository where you can access every single episode. So if you're tuning in just for episode 9 today, you can actually get the first 8. And what happens if they register after Friday, Ken? So tomorrow's Friday.
So if they don't get registered by let's call it the end of the show tomorrow, the price goes up.
Yes.
So the price is going up. And there's another thing. This might be a secret. Maybe I'm not supposed to tell this.
Oh, you can tell the world.
We're giving away $250 to people that are registered by the start of the show tomorrow. So that's have a little bit less than 24 hours now to get registered. And we could probably talk Wes into putting that into the chat so that everybody can see where to register.
Well, let's have a look here. I'm sure I got it somewhere. Absolutely. There we go. There's the challenge. We are copying the link as we speak. We're coming back to the comment section and we are posting. So there you go. Make sure you get registered. And as Ken said, one lucky person will win $250 tomorrow. And the trick is for everyone that's either watching or listening, that you've got to be here. So if we announce you as a winner and there's $250 and you're not on the live stream, well, we may just have to find somebody else that has shown up for the day on the live stream. So make sure you tune in tomorrow for sure.
Oh no! Wait a minute. I thought I got to keep the 250 if they weren't there.
No, we've already talked about that, Ken. That is we're going to continue talking about that, I guess. Oh. So the second point I want to talk about here today is accounting and billing, right? And this is so important. As I mentioned, or I should say, as Jeff mentioned, and I kind of brought back up again, is that, this piece is so critical, and especially if you've got one system, to be able to do all of this, right? And, when I started kind of the flat rate model all those years ago, when I was speaking on stages at different events and it was all new and there was not even a chance of dealers actually selling IT services at that time, one system was probably enough for them, right? But it very quickly evolved into people starting to look at these technology services, which we'll talk more about tomorrow. And you've really got to make sure, I've seen people do some pretty kludgy things with how they use their system to try and do a flat rate bill for the month because their system doesn't support it, right? And it doesn't look good. So typically what people have done is they'll change the language in the contract to reflect something else, like minimums, for example. So they'll say that minimums, in the contract as specified actually mean benchmarks, and, it's not a minimum, etc. But the system really should have the ability to support a value-based invoice, right, Ken? And when we're talking about this value-based invoice, we really need to make sure that it's taking into account the users, the print volumes, the equipment, and any other additional services. So if you're throwing in telephony or voice over IP or managed technology services or cybersecurity in that value-based bill, because remember, for everyone that's been following the live stream, that value-based bill is a very simple invoice that the customer sees. When we're getting them to pay us, it's not breaking out all the component services, right? So you've got to make sure that, your systems can support that. Either natively within the application itself, or come up with a way to, jerry rig the system, as I talked about earlier, if you need to, right? Not preferred, but if you need to, but to start thinking about that. Go ahead, Ken.
I was going to say too, obviously the value-based invoice is going to be the simplest to bill. It just makes everything in your system so easy. Now, you may have to allocate that revenue into different pots afterwards. And so you want to make sure you have that capability. And the one thing I would encourage is to think about this as designing your workflow and redesigning all the things you're doing to try to make it simple and automate everything as much as you can.
Yeah, and that was one of the great things when we had Great America on, is you remember when we showcased all the different ways that they allow dealers to be able to present that invoice to the customer, right? So if you want to have an invoice for flat rate that doesn't give you any protection for overages, if you're going to be a true, kind of guaranteed flat rate, no problem. They have that capability. If you want to have a flat rate program that has some protection for overages, like actuals versus those benchmarks, well, you can do that too. If you want to add a third level that actually does it by adding additional users, well, you can do it that way too, right? So working with partners on the finance side, like Great America, working with back office providers for automation like Tigerpaw, et cetera, that can do those kind of things, I think is, absolutely critical, right? And that's probably a good note there, as I talked about the benchmarks versus the actuals. You remember, under a flat rate, we're not charging for pages anymore, but that doesn't mean that they go away, right? That, for us, if we're measuring against those benchmarks, be it by pages or by the number of cartridges that are used in that contract, we still have to understand and make sure that those numbers match what we quoted the customer, right? Because I know that, I personally recommend having some kind of clause in the contract for a 13th invoice, or the ability to adjust the price on a quarterly basis during those periodic business reviews. But again, we don't want to use those triggers, right? We want to have them in there, but the less we use them, the better. So we still need to understand those benchmarks, versus the actuals over time. And the system should be able to generate those reports in an automated fashion to be able to give you those, right? To make sure that you understand where we are. The third piece too is, as we've talked about when we're talking about building out quotes, I love that 3-level concept, right? Of being able to have one where we do nothing except, change the way that they're billed. The second option, which is we do some simple workflow things for them, like help them to make sure that they're printing their email in web print in black and white instead of color. And then that third level where there are more complex rules, that there's secure release happening at the interface on the device, et cetera, right? And to be able to understand how many users there are and to be able to do checks on those rules to make sure that they're doing what we need to, that those can be automated as well. And I know that through the providers, at least of the software tools, typically used for that, they can get those. And if you can find a way to also make sure that those go into your ERP system, even better yet, right?
Exactly.
All right. Find my banners again. Taking at number 3, and this is one I always love because it's about getting paid, right, Ken? And I know that everyone in this, it's kind of an afterthought. Typically, with folks, saying we've already got a comp plan, why do we need to do a new one? Well, that is entirely up to you, as I've said, and I do have some preferences for how people are actually compensated under this program because I've seen it in the real world and how it works. And if you do that to make sure that you have the ability, to be able to track and bill for that from a back end perspective, right? So I know that some folks, some friends of mine in the office equipment industry prefer a preferred percentage of revenue model where it's actually quite simple to figure out what the percentage of that deal is and pay the rep on that. So love that model. Got to make sure that you have the ability in your systems to be able to track and pay them that way. The other piece there, obviously, is the GP plus annuity, which we've talked about. Other office equipment dealers I work with that have great success with that, both in a flat rate world and also in a cost per page world, where you're paying a percent on the, whatever the deal is, plus some kind of annuity to keep them, interested over time, right? But either way, to be working with your admin department, again, even if your system doesn't necessarily allow you to do this out of the gate, to be able to work with those smart people that are administering this afterwards in the back office to figure out at least how it can be, how it can be done correctly, right? And that's just the thing is, as we've said at the very beginning, make sure that they're involved early in the process, right?
Yeah. And I would say I'm going to talk to your annuity because I'm a huge fan of that as well. And if you have any questions about it, I want you to, everybody in the audience that's whenever you're watching this, ask yourself this question. How often does your insurance agent change companies? And the answer is typically never. They've been selling, you can have an insurance agent for 40 years and he's going to sell the same product. The reason is that annuity. He's not going anywhere because he doesn't want to give it up. So that's the advantage that an annuity system has. It also, if you do have to get a new agent or a new agent, there we go. But if you have to get a new rep, you have a way to fund his income. And it lets you focus on driving the behavior you want of net new business. And that's how we get growth. We don't get growth from cycling through our customers over and over and over again.
No, we talked about that on the day we talked about earnings, right? Like, how we actually pay our reps and, everything else. And it's funny, like we're transforming our business models into this annuity-based business, right? By going to a flat rate, that's exactly what we're doing for our business. And the reason we're doing that is because we know that it's stickier, both for the customer and for us. So I see absolutely lots of benefit for doing the same thing with our sales reps, because most good sales reps at the end of the day are entrepreneurs, right? And again, that annuity is not a dangerous piece, especially with that GP component, because unless they hit their GP amount, the way I've seen them structured is they don't get paid that annuity for that quarter, right? So there's that inspiration to make sure that we're keeping our, manufacturer partners whole for whatever our obligations are to them, right? And as I've also said, that's going to have to change. And typically it's funny, at an OEM level, and I love the OEMs, make no mistake, I'm not insulting them on this, that they are bigger machines and they do take longer to come around on, some of these things, right? And as flat rate starts to take hold, as they start to get more of their dealer customers rolling the model out, they are going to come around and start supporting different ways of incentivizing the dealer channel. It's not going to happen today, though, right? So at least with that GP model with the annuity, that it does offer that. It is more complicated, though. So the beauty of that percent revenue model is it's simple and everyone understands how they're getting paid, and then the people in the back office know how they're paying. With that annuity piece, it continues to grow over time, right? So there is a different tracking mechanism for making sure that you are tracking that, because it's a beautiful thing. I mean, every month you start off with a small bit of annuity. The next month you get some more. The month after that, look out to 2 years, look out to 3 years. Eventually you're going to have a pretty good, bit of business before you even get out of bed in the morning, right? Provided you're hitting your quota.
Provided you hit quota, exactly. So they got,
yeah.
That's the amazing thing is the better the bigger their annuity is, the more incentive they have to get up early and work hard to get quota.
Yes. Oh, I thought we had a couple comments there, but it was just you putting in the links. All right. You hear my phone cuckooing. So now we'll talk about the PBR data, and this is another thing. So for anyone in the comment section, before I move on, what does PBR stand for? Someone can give us a comment. What is a PBR?
Well, I can remember drinking PBRs.
Oh yeah, is that actually a brand of beer?
Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Oh, I love how acronyms have a funny way of creeping up across industries. You got to be careful with them, I guess. But yeah, yeah. Someone else said Pabst Blue Ribbon as well. But more importantly, and it was actually Jeff Bendix, he said it's actually a periodic business review. And I think Jeff is one of the first people that I actually worked with. Let's see here. Yeah, John Alford's got it as well. Jeff was one of the first people I worked with when we moved kind of over to that expression, right? Oh, look, Ingrid's coming in with it as well. Man, we got a lot of smart people in the room today. Wow.
Dinesh?
But only you and Ken understood that it was both a beer and a review process. So I think that's bonus points.
Yeah.
Yeah. Periodic business reviews, I think there's a great term because, you know, sometimes people do them every month. Sometimes they do them once a quarter. Sometimes, especially in our flat rate programs, they only do them every 6 months. And sometimes they do them once a year, right? That's certainly not my recommendation, but at any rate, the periodic thing is just to make sure that they're happening at regular intervals. And just bring up the screen here. Just a second. We'll come back here. All right. And one of the things that we want to do, we've talked about this before, and we'll continue to talk about it because it's so important, is to make sure that we're actually reviewing these numbers with our customers when we're doing these periodic business reviews, right? So if our contract has mention of benchmarks, you know, saying that, you know, it's based on doing this much color and this much black and white per quarter or per month or whatever it is, or it includes this many cartridges on average for that term, whatever the benchmark is, that we can actually show them how that's tracking against their actuals, right? And remember, the contract states very specifically that if there's any pricing adjustments done, that we typically do them on a yearly basis, but we want to get them ready for making some changes if they need to. So if those volumes are out of control, et cetera, right? And we want to make sure that our systems and our tools have the capability of actually doing reports for that. So put that down as a strong consideration because we do want to include them in those business reviews. The other piece that we want to include in there is some kind of user application reporting, right? So again, we have benchmarks for the volumes, but you know, for the really good flat rate programs that are putting in rule sets to drive efficiencies and to help with driving further costs down through efficiencies, we need to know how that's tracking. So is it doing everything we want it to? Is the impact of, you know, color printing and email and web print that we've gotten rid of, is that having the impact we want it to? What kind of production is being done on these PDFs? Is it customer facing, or is somebody producing a document internally and printing it all the time when maybe there's a digital workflow for however they're trying to share that, right? Excel documents, etc. But unless we understand that application level stuff, very difficult for us to make recommendations. And it's a great way to have that conversation with that customer during those QBRs, right? So just to make sure that in the back office scenario that we're actually trying to make sure that even if it's not automated, that we've got some kind of process set up to be able to put these numbers together very simply and easily, so that when the sales rep goes to see that customer for those reviews, that they are armed with the data. Because you know what happens, Ken, if we leave this up to the sales reps, and again, I love sales reps, no insult. If we leave it up to them to try and pull these numbers together every time they go to see a customer, guess what's going to happen?
Might get missed. Yeah,
maybe, right? Because, you know, people do what they're paid to do. And if you're actually paid to chase business and go after things, sometimes and those QBRs, that is the last thing on our mind, right? That we're numbers driven. So making sure that information is easily accessible, you know, for the sales reps. And then on to the fifth one, and this one's near and dear to your heart. Oh, I put it up there without actually putting up the image. But you can talk to this one a little bit, Ken, because this is your wheelhouse. But obviously, being able to really understand where we're at in that contract as far as the service and the device profitability as well, right?
Exactly. And one of the tools that I'm really a fan of is I'm a huge fan of BEI data and the ability to go in and start to look, because what you always want to be doing, I had this conversation in class today, is that as you look at data, you're looking for your worst performing machines, your worst performing techs, figuring out what to do to fix them so that they're not the worst anymore. And then you start with the next worst, and you keep that process going. And as you do that, you can start to have huge success. It was interesting, an individual in a company that sent their director of service through both of my training programs and then worked with a consultant and worked with Wes. They managed to improve from about 30% first call effectiveness to the best in the United States, and the best of what BEI tracked. They went to a little over 70% first call effectiveness, and that is not measured the let's cheat the rules way, but that is the real way. And it's by doing all of these things, and that's why Wes and I are working together on this, is so that we can help your company achieve at every level.
Muted myself. Yeah, when Ken and I first met and started talking about doing this together, it's because we realized that we both had levels of expertise in different areas of this process. And there's the Canadian in me again with process. As I joke, I don't say process because it's not spelled Praw, but we both have different levels of expertise in different areas of this. And as I hope we've demonstrated through this 10-day challenge so far, that every aspect of the business really needs to be considered. And it's not that difficult. It's just that it has to be done, right? That those considerations have to be made. And as we're talking on the back office side today with service and everything else, it's another area that gets ignored until somebody complains, right? So they launch the program. Then the service department, who has to answer for that in different ways, comes back and says, whoa, slow down. What's going on here? I don't understand this, right? Or I can't support that. I know what you want me to do, but I can't do that, right? With this device or whatever. So just so critical, right?
Well, and that was another piece, and we talked about that on Monday, about making sure that you pick the most profitable device. And that is the beauty of the flat rate billing model is that you're no longer caring exactly what you sell, other than is it the most profitable device at that volume band that meets the customer's needs. And when you can start to do that, the impact, like I said, I don't even think dealers are, even if you've watched all of this program, until you actually experience it, you're not going to understand how huge an impact that is.
No, you're absolutely right. And there's no mistake. It wasn't by accident that we chose the sponsors that we did for every day of this challenge, right? That you and I were very determined to make sure that the sponsors for each day could somehow support the flat rate model for the topic of the day, right? And as you mentioned, BI Services, Great America, Tigerpaw, Pulsar 360. Tomorrow we're going to hear from the 20, right? Melissa Whitaker. Who am I missing in here? So many sponsors, but for each day, because they have particular expertise to help people with these programs, right? That it's not just about making sure the dealers can get this content for free, but hey, look, if you're looking for somebody to help you do a better job of automating that or to develop some expertise, guess what? They were probably a sponsor on that day, right?
Yeah, and you'll start to see people using the flat rate affiliate as a part of their advertising campaign. And what that means is that they've worked with Wes and I, and we're comfortable recommending them. They want to be involved. They want to help dealers. So the end result is these are people that you can look at as good choices in this space.
Yeah, let me see if I can on the fly kind of pull up that that graphic for the flat rate affiliate. Hopefully I can find it rather simply. So for that sponsor, do you get the ability to use that flat rate affiliate logo in your own advertising and your own marketing? And you've earned it because you actually do support that. And the other logos that we have, as we talked about, maybe we'll talk about that in a minute, Ken, is when we talk about people working with us to help with their programs as well, right? And this one I'm going to show, this one was actually done before we had all of our sponsors on board. But here's what the affiliate logo looks like. And so you'll have that capability, for the sponsors to be able to use that. Now, for those of our friends that are office equipment dealers and decide that they want to do some, work with us, then we actually have a flat rate program which gets you a certified logo as well. And we'll talk more about that probably, Ken, I would think in the coming weeks, right? So hopefully the 10-day challenge can help those folks that want to get their business in line. And afterwards, if you want to get that certification to be able to share that with your customers as well, that's going to be available as well, right?
Okay. And just, I want to share that, a little piece of that, because one of the things that we're going to do as a organization is to try to build awareness in the media about a flat rate and why it's valuable, where the value is, why customers will benefit from it. And so those that are flat rate certified, they, obviously will be able to tag on to and benefit from the things that we do. And this may include Wes and I doing some speaking. For those that go through the Flat Rate Academy, we're going to help dealers work up talk tracks so that they can speak. So we have a lot of things that we're bringing to the table to help the dealers that are serious about being in flat rate, help them succeed, because that's what we want.
It is. Yeah. And to be able to give you a platform as well out there in the world for customers to be able to go to as well, right? So when a customer is thinking about a flat rate program, and believe me, if it's new for us as dealers, then it's going to be new for those customers as well, right? So to have that ability to go to the flatrateworld.site and look for those that are certified, that have the credentials for this new flat rate model, right? We've done that for Managed Print for years through different organizations, and we're making sure that we're building this for the flat rate community as well. So if you have some inquiries, then I'm going to go into our private chat here and get that link. If you want to learn more about how you can do this with us, I think I copied it. Let's see here. Success. It's now in the comments.
So if you do want some help,
yeah. Oh, and look, I got a shout out for Dinesh as well, because he did come back with the periodic business review as well. And again, only 2 people with the Pabst Blue Ribbon. Not even sure if we're allowed to use that in our show. They're not a sponsor, but it's a lot of fun anyway, right?
Well, I have a joke I could tell, but we'll do that at a day when we have more time.
Well, we're drawing pretty close to the end of our show today, and I can't believe it. Tomorrow is the final day. And tomorrow we're going to be talking about one that is so near and dear to my heart, and it's going to be action-packed. So you're going to want to make sure you attend that one tomorrow. We're going to be talking about converged services and this ability to use the flat rate model to start growing in new directions. And one of the folks that we had on the show today, Jeff Bendix, he'll be around tomorrow to talk about his work with converged services and how it's revolutionized his business. We're also going to have a look at some of the work that we did through with Tigerpaw through the Converged Services e-guide. And we're going to look at the different sizes of those marketplaces. In other words, what the actual opportunity is, as well as the size of the markets and the compound annual growth rate for each of those, right? So I see you chuckling there. We've got a comment here.
Yeah, we do. Ingrid had
a... Now, there's a funny story there, Ingrid, is that at one of our road shows that I did when I first started this, when I was training people at road shows and how to do flat rate, in the afternoon, one of the guests, this was actually when we could do things, live and in person, actually said in the morning break, exactly what you said, could we have a beer in the afternoon to liven things up a little bit? And that's what we did. We made sure we brought in some cold ones for everybody, and that afternoon was actually pretty fun.
I was there.
Hey, and it looks like we've got our guest, our friend, still online here. So I want to just get him back on for a second, just to say thanks again for coming in. And Jeff Bendix, are you still there, buddy? Let's see. Hey, Jeff, how are you?
Good. There's another PBR, Professional Bull Riders.
Yes.
There we go.
Yeah, they were just doing here a couple of weeks ago.
Well, we can have some fun with this. Hey, did you see a movie called The Rider, which talked about, it's a really good movie. It was by the same producer and director that did that Oscar winner. What was that? The Nomadland. So
I do not believe I've seen that one yet.
I'll check it out. I'll
put it on my to-watch list.
So we've got the third definition for PBR. Appreciate that. And thanks again for your time, for helping us out. As Kenneth mentioned earlier, it's a volunteer of your time. This is not something that you get paid for, and we just really appreciate you always stepping up and do what you can to help the the Office Equipment Channel.
Always happy to help.
All right, we will talk to you tomorrow, my friend.
See you tomorrow.
We'll see you.
Cheers. And for everybody else, cannot thank you enough for being part of this challenge. Do make sure you tune in tomorrow. And if you're watching this as a recording on either Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, make sure you look in the comment section and register for this so you can get it for free. Because come Monday, if you decide you like what you're seeing on one of the episodes and you want to get them all together in the same place, well, that's going to cost some money. So just make sure you do it. Why pay for something when you can get it for free? Our sponsors have already taken care of that for you. So until tomorrow, everybody, happy selling and enjoy the rest of your day. And good to see you again, Ken. Yeah.